All right, good evening, everyone. Welcome. My name's Erin. I am a clinical dietitian and diabetes educator here at Stanford. Thank you so much for joining us this evening for our diabetes care program wellness group. We're so happy to have you. Today, I have the pleasure of introducing Jessica Shipley. She's a registered dietitian and certified diabetes care and education specialist. Jessica has been with Stanford Health Care for over 13 years and practicing in the nutrition clinic and primary care. Jessica provides individual medical nutrition therapy and works closely with diabetes and prediabetes patients, teaching both diabetes and weight management classes. And tonight, Jessica is going to share 5 tasty carb-controlled snacks that really perfectly capture the flavor and essence of the fall season. So if you have questions, please add them to the Q&A, and Jessica's happy to answer those questions as we are going through the presentation. We can also answer some questions at the end. This webinar is being recorded and it will be posted on the Stanford Health Library under the Diabetes Care Program. And you'll also find an archive of previous webinars there. And I will share the link to that site in the chat. And Jessica's also made some recipe cards, so I'll be sharing those throughout the presentation, and you will have access to those with the posted recording. So don't worry, everyone will have those recipes available. All right, take it away, Jessica.
Great. Thanks so much, Erin. And thank you everybody for tuning in today. I'm really excited to share with you some really fun recipes that hopefully you can use or incorporate during the fall season to help satisfy your cravings for some of those fall flavors, but without having to worry so much about the carbs. So I just want to go first, kind of discuss a couple things about when we're trying to choose a healthy snack for our blood sugars. What types of things do we want to consider? So when we are looking for a snack, we want that to be something that's going to help keep us full. We want it to be something that will help to support our blood sugar, but we also want it to taste really good and be something that we can feel really good about eating, and that gives us really good energy. So when we're thinking about, okay, carbs, we want to have carbs can give us energy, but they also raise our blood sugar. We really want to focus on choosing snacks if they have carbs in them to be a slower digesting carb or a minimally processed carb. And so that could include something like a fruit or beans or lentils or something that's a whole grain or dairy products. So those are all they're all slower digesting carbs compared to more of our processed or refined carbs like added sugars or sweets, cookies, pastries, granola bars. So we want to think about the minimally processed carbs, but then making them more mixed nutrient. We want to add things like protein and fiber and healthy fats with our carbs because that really helps to slow digestion. It keeps us full longer, and it really helps to stabilize or reduce or slow down that after meal or after snack blood sugar spike. So a lot of times, we're looking at, okay, well, maybe I'll just eat a piece of fruit, which is really good, but add some protein along with it. So I'm going to take these concepts today and apply it to 5 different carb-controlled recipes that all have really good flavor and are things that you can do either with your family or for yourself. I've tested all of these recipes out on my family, and my kiddos really like a lot of these. So these recipes are all very versatile at the same time. All right, so our very first recipe, Erin is going to share it on the slide just so you can see the name of it and some of the ingredients, but I'm going to walk through all the ingredients with you. The first recipe is called Crunchy Sesame Snap Veggies with persimmon and toasted almonds. So I know that's a big name, but I was like, I actually just came up with this one day because I had some persimmons. I just wanted to show you. I have lots of persimmons. I am fortunate to have some grandparents that have a wonderful, great producing persimmon tree. So over the years, we've become very creative about using persimmons. And it's a really great fall fruit to include things like persimmons or apples, pears are some of our nice flavorful fall fruits. But again, when you're looking for grabbing a snack and you're like, well, I'll just grab a piece of fruit like a persimmon, that's really great. But let's try to think about some ways of how to really optimize the fiber component, maybe ways to add vegetables. And so this was one of my fun recipes I really liked because I thought, well, hey, you can put persimmons with lots of vegetables, and it's a great way to make vegetables a little bit more exciting when you add a lot of flavor to them. And the key to this particular recipe is starting out with a little dressing. So we're going to start off first with making what's called a sesame dressing. And we're going to start out, I have a little salad dressing container. If you ever make your own salad dressings, you might have one. You could do it in a bowl, but I really like these little pourable ones. You can make your salad dressing and put all of your ingredients right into here. So we're going to start with our sesame dressing. Our first base is a 1/4 cup of olive oil. And there's little measuring marks on this measuring cup here, this salad dressing cup. I have a 1/4 cup of olive oil in there. And then we're going to do a 1/4 cup of rice vinegar. This is just a really neutral, light vinegar. It gives this snack a nice flavor with the vinegar, the rice vinegar. And then we're going to do, you could sweeten this or not. This is where it becomes optional. I'm going to use about 1 tablespoon of pure maple syrup in this dressing here. If you don't want to use a maple syrup or a honey, you could always use like some stevia drops or a Splenda to sweeten it, or you can just completely leave the sweetener out. That's completely up to you. And then we're going to add 1 teaspoon of I have low sodium tamari sauce. You could also use liquid aminos here. And then I'm going to add I'm just kind of eyeballing this. You could measure it out, but I'm going to do about 2 tablespoons of sesame oil. All right, and that's the base of this dressing. Just a note on this dressing, when you're making your own dressings at home, you have a lot more control over, titrating it towards your own flavor profile. You can adjust the sodium content, you can adjust the sweetener content, you can control the type of fat that goes into the dressing. And in this particular salad dressing, this actually makes almost 10 servings. There's about 10 tablespoons in here altogether. And per tablespoon of this dressing, there's only 1 gram of carb in this entire dressing. And I did add a little bit of sweetener. So again, it was just a tablespoon, but distributed among all those servings, it's really minimal, but it really does give a lot of nice flavor. So that's why I used it here. And typically, if you buy a salad dressing that's pre-prepared or ready-made, oftentimes those dressings have, on the upwards end of, between 5 and up to 20 grams of carbs per serving. And a lot of that can be from the added sugar or even some of the thickeners or the starches that get added. So when possible, if you can make your own little dressings and add them to things, it's just a really great way to control the ingredients. Okay, so I have everything in here, and then I'm going to give it a really good shake. Shake it a little bit and just really mix all those things together.
Jessica, we have a question about, do you have tips on choosing, how to know you're choosing ripe persimmons, or if they're at a ripeness for the recipe?
Oh, I love that. Okay, so there's different varieties of persimmons. What I have here, these are called fuyu persimmons. So they don't have that pointed bottom. The ones that have a pointed bottom, it would not be the ones that I would use in this recipe, but these are the fuyu persimmons. And they're really sweet and tasteful when they're still crunchy, and they're a lot easier to cut up. So I personally like them when they're crunchy, but you could let them soften a little bit and still use them. These were just picked a couple of days ago, so they're still, they have like a nice hard skin. They almost feel still like an apple, but not like a pear when they would get soft. That's how I would say to kind of go for it. Okay, any other questions so far?
Nope.
Okay, so we have our dressings. And one thing with the persimmons is just a medium persimmon. This is, somewhere in the range of, 15 to 20 grams of carbs for this persimmon. And you see all this nice, beautiful orange color on the persimmon. That is telling us that these persimmons have a lot of beta carotene in them, and they're really rich in vitamin A. They're also rich in fiber. So we want fiber in our food sources because fiber helps to slow digestion. It keeps us full longer. It helps to reduce those post-meal blood sugar spikes. And in the setting of diabetes, many of us are also keeping an eye on our cholesterol numbers. We're watching our lipid panel, our cardiovascular health, and we want to try to go for things that have more fiber in them. So I already actually have a persimmon cut up, but I just wanted to show you what the persimmon looked like before I cut it up. So in this bowl, I'm going to make this is our first snack. It's kind of like a salad snack, but it's a great one. Great way to use fruit. I have here 1 persimmon, and I just chopped it up into little pieces. You can leave the skin on the persimmon, or you can leave it off. That's more of your preference of, if you like kind of the chewy crunch that the skin adds, but some people do prefer to peel the skin off of it. Either would be fine. It's still going to taste really good, and we're still adding lots of fiber from some of our other foods here. So far in this bowl, we have 1 persimmon, and then I have these are baby cucumbers. I like to use their baby cucumbers or Persian cucumbers. You don't have to peel them. You can leave the skin on these cucumbers, and it's a really it adds really nice crunch to this salad, and it gives it a really nice, refreshing flavor. And you can eat the skin, no problem. It's a softer skin. So I'm going to put that cucumber right into my bowl. And then I have 1 red bell pepper.
We have a couple questions when
great.
you're ready.
Yeah, so so far, yeah, go ahead, Erin, you can ask, what are the questions?
The first one is about the salad dressing. Do you have suggestions on how you would store that, how long it will last?
Yeah, this particular dressing, there's nothing in this dressing that I use that has to go in the refrigerator. So when I make it, I usually leave it, I'll just leave it in the cupboard for probably like a week or so. And if I'm not going to use it or it's just sitting for a while, I'll just put it in the fridge, and you can leave it in the fridge for, I would say probably a couple weeks, and it would be just fine as long as it's sealed and you have it airtight and you didn't add anything really perishable to it. And then if you want to use it when you take it out of the fridge, you just make sure you let it sit and come to room temperature, and then you can re-emulsify it just by shaking it up.
And the other question, thank you, Jessica. Those are great tips. The other question is about fiber, just keeping the peel on the cucumber. Is that a great way to have additional?
Yeah, the question was, that was one of the reasons why I like to keep if you can keep the peels on it and it doesn't bother you. Like I said, sometimes it's a taste preference. Some people that like to peel skins on things, but yes, if you leave the skins on things, like if you eat the skins that are on the persimmon, skins on an apple, skin on the cucumber, a lot of the fiber is in the skin of those vegetables and the fruit. So it does help to add more. But it doesn't, if you take the skin off, you still do get fiber from the flesh of the fruit and the vegetable itself. So in our bowl so far, we have 1 persimmon chopped up. It's added to the bowl. I just use 1 baby cucumber. You could use more or less. And these veggies, the pepper, the cucumber, these are so negligent in terms of carbs, but they're really great fillers. So any place where you can bump up your veggies, I always say go for it, because it's going to make it just that much more filling, and you're going to have a lot more volume, and it's still going to be very minimal in carbs. So the cucumber, the red bell pepper, I had some radishes. I would think that's like a fun, like fall way to use. I have some red radishes I chopped up. I just used like 2 or 3 of them, but those also give like a nice bite. They're low in carb, nice high fiber. So I'm going to add those into my little snack salad here. And then I have about a half a cup. I chopped up some snap peas, and so I'll add those in here too. All right, so let me grab a spoon. And we're gonna mix that up. So this little snack here makes it's 2 servings. And about 1 tablespoon is the serving of this dressing. So I'm gonna add about 2 tablespoons to this. Let's just say we're gonna divide it up, we'll eat one, and we're going to share the other half with someone else. Just give it a nice little mix. That one's ready to go. And then we want to add, I'm going to let that just sit and let it absorb the flavors for a minute. The next thing I always like to think about when I'm having a snack, like, okay, we have lots of fiber here, lots of vegetables, but how can I add some protein to this just to help give it a little bit more of that nice fullness and help to hold us through a little bit longer. So what I have over here is I have a 1/4 cup of, I toasted these slivered almonds on a pan. So they're just like lightly slivered almonds, and they have a little, I don't know if you can see that very well. You just toast them on a low heat for a couple minutes till you start to smell the nuttiness come out, or they turn a little bit light brown. You can also buy slivered almonds like already toasted. I like to do it myself. I just think it tastes a lot better when you do it at home. So I have a 1/4 cup of these, and I'm going to add these slivered almonds right into my little snack salad here. And give that a mix. This is so good. This is one of my favorite things to have. And if you don't have persimmons on hand, you can still make this same exact little snack salad, but in place of a persimmon, you can use an apple. You can even put an orange in here. So you can really, mix it up. If you have other vegetables you want to use up, put it in there. Again, the key is this dressing makes it all just taste so good, and it melds so well together. So it looks really beautiful too. If you can see all those really nice colors in that salad, and it has a lot of nice crunch. When you're craving something crunchy, instead of going for the chips or the crackers, something like this can give you that nice crunchy essence. So this one, for just one serving, so if we're gonna eat half of this is 170 calories, and it has a total of about 17 grams of carbs and 5 grams of fiber and 7 grams of protein. So definitely, lots of good protein, lots of good fiber, great snack, beautiful color. It meets that criteria of there's healthy carbs in it. We have lots of fiber from our veggies, our almonds, and that persimmon. And it's going to help carry us through. So that was our first recipe, the crunchy sesame snap veggies with persimmon and toasted almonds. I'm going to move this over aside to get us prepped for our next recipe we're going to do. And that salad, if you don't put the dressing on it right away, and let's say you just wanted to eat maybe half of the serving, you may just consider just putting the dressing, put some in a bowl, put the dressing on, and then you can just cover the rest and leave it sitting in the fridge for probably 1 or 2 days. If you are using watery veggies like the cucumber, sometimes it can get really soft if you leave it in the fridge for a long time, and that might not be as crunchy anymore. Okay, my next recipe that I'd like to share with you is also a fun snack that you can do. And this is using chia seeds. This is a pumpkin spice chia seed pudding. So also super good. Let me just get my ingredients over here. Okay. If you are thinking, so how is this like a fall, fall dish? Well, I'm using pumpkin spice flavors as well as pumpkin that is going to be going into this chia seed pudding. And it gets really creamy, it tastes really good, but it almost has that pumpkin pie flavor essence to it, but you're not getting all the extra carbs and the sugar and the crust in it. It's a very healthful dish, very versatile. You could use this as a snack. You could even use something like this as a breakfast. We're going to start off in our bowl here, and we're going to make, this is the recipe here that I'm going to make, is going to make 3 servings. So once it's done, you can proportion it out into 3 different servings. We're going to use chia. So the main ingredient of this are chia seeds. If anyone has never used chia seeds before, you're kind of wondering, how do I use them? Some of the best ways to use them are making puddings with them, putting them into oatmeal. If you're baking, there's different baked goods you can make. Like if you're making some, muffins or some little pancakes, you can make different low carb or carb controlled versions. Chia seeds are a nice thing to add to them. But why I really like chia seeds is just when we look at the nutritional profile of chia seeds, in 2 tablespoons of chia seeds, we are getting 10 grams of carbs, but 10 grams of fiber. So pretty much these are just all fiber when we're eating chia seeds, and 6 grams of protein. So when we're looking for what are things that we want to keep us full longer, fiber, protein, healthy fat, and chia seeds actually check off the list for all of those things. And also they're minimal, there's no carbs, they're very low carb from that end, because all that carb is actually coming from the fiber. All right, so we're going to start off. I'm going to put a 1/4 cup plus 2 tablespoons, so 6 tablespoons total into my bowl. And that's because I'm making 3 servings. I like to make, I think I'm at 4, did I do 4? 5, I think 6. Okay, so here's 6 tablespoons of chia seeds. And chia seeds, when you look at this, it doesn't look like a whole lot in the bowl so far, but chia seeds absorb about 20 times their weight in water. So it's really important when you use them that you have a lot of liquid in whatever you're using it for, because those chia seeds are going to absorb all that water and then they're going to swell. And that's it turns into this very nice, like almost like a very soluble fiber. It turns into like a viscous gel, which is really great for your stomach and keeping you full longer, helping to lower that cholesterol. In our bowl here, we're going to add a 1/2 cup. I have a 1/2 cup of canned pumpkin. So I'm just going to get my 1/2 cup. I have a little can. This is just plain canned pumpkin. There's no added sugar in this. And this pumpkin here gives us that nice like pumpkin pie texture and flavor. It also gives it a nice color. 1/2 cup of pumpkin. And then you can choose to add some sweetener to this if you'd like. You can add some honey, you can add some pure maple syrup, some stevia drops if you want to sweeten it. You can also just leave it unsweetened and make it plain, and then sweeten it with some fruit at the end. I'll choose to not add some sweetener to this one. I'm going to make it just plain without adding any sugar to this particular batch. I'm going to add about 1 tablespoon of some almond butter. This is what's going to give it. Also, it's nice to get that little nut flavor in this. And then almond butter is going to add a little bit more healthy fat, gives us a little bit more protein. Also, we're bumping up the fiber here even more with the nut butter. You could choose an alternative one if you prefer a cashew butter or peanut butter. You could do that too. But adding the pumpkin with the almond butter just gives it that really nice fall flavor. And then I'm going to add about a teaspoon of pure vanilla extract in here. And I'm just going to eyeball it, but if you have measuring spoons at home and you're more comfortable measuring with the measuring spoons, definitely do that. And then I have 1 teaspoon of, you could do pumpkin pie spice. You could buy that already prepared, or you can make your own pumpkin pie spice. And there's different variations. I like to make my own and just kind of keep it in a little container. And you could do a mixture of things like cinnamon, nutmeg, cloves, allspice, cardamom, and kind of make a nice blend of the flavors that you like. So I have a pumpkin pie spice here. This is what brings out that nice fall flavor. And I'm going to add about 1 teaspoon of that right into my bowl. Scrape all that out. The pumpkin pie spice with the vanilla mixed together smells really good. And then, as I mentioned, these chia seeds need a lot of liquid. So in my measuring cup here, I have 1.5 cups of unsweetened vanilla almond milk. Almond milk is a great option to use here. One, because there's no added sugar in the almond milk. It's quite low in carbs. It's low in calories. If you are watching the amount of calories you're adding to this, and another good option is it has a nice amount of calcium and vitamin D. So this, not only from the chia seeds are we getting all this fiber and this nice protein, we're getting a lot of calcium and vitamin D in a low carb option by using this almond milk. So I'm going to add the whole 1.5 cups here. And I would recommend, if you are making this, you probably want to get a whisk or a fork to stir this, because sometimes when you first add a liquid to the chia seeds, they kind of clump up. And if you don't mix it really well, it doesn't leave you with a good texture once it's all done. So I'm gonna just mix it for a minute here, mix it really, really well. One of the tips when you're using chia seeds, or if you're making a chia seed pudding, or if you make an oatmeal and you add chia seeds to it, like I often will make overnight oats, but I'll use a lot of chia seeds in it, just a little bit of oats. It helps to let the chia seeds sit in the liquid for a couple minutes after you stir it. You wait, and then you come back and give it another stir. And that just helps because as these chia seeds are absorbing all that liquid, they start to kind of form little clumps. So if we just stir it little every so often, a couple times, and stir really well, it minimizes that and it creates a really nice smooth texture for your final product. There are also some recipes, if you like more of a mousse texture and not so much of the chia seed pudding texture, you could even put this into an emulsifier or a blender and really puree it, and then you have an even more smooth consistency when the product is all done. Okay, so that's mixed pretty well. I'm gonna try to move that a little closer without spilling it so you can see it. There's no clumps in there. It has like a nice orange flavor and it smells really good. You smell all that cinnamon and nutmeg, ginger from the pumpkin pie spice I had made.
Jessica, with that color and description, I feel like I can smell it through.
It is, it's so filling.
We
So
did
this
have a question about milk substitutions, using unsweetened almond milk or coconut milk.
Yeah, you can use any milk substitution. Coconut milk actually tastes really, really good in this recipe. So if there's a milk preference you have that you like, use that in it. You're still going to be getting all the great benefits from the chia seeds. And if you are trying to go for even a little bit more protein, you can add a regular milk to it. You can put a protein powder into this. You can use there's other powders like a PB Fit where you can mix that in. So there's other ways you can even boost this up even more. As the recipe has that I have shared with you, per serving, you end up getting, it's a total of 18 grams of carbs, but 10 of those are actually coming from fiber. It's just 10 grams of fiber in this, 18 grams of carbs, and about 6 grams of protein. And that's in 1/3 of this recipe here. What I want to show you, because once I put the lid on this, you can't eat this right away because as I mentioned, those chia seeds, they absorb water and it does take some time. So I would leave this in the fridge for at least 2 to 3 hours or overnight, and then it's going to be ready at the next day. And so it's a nice prep ahead meal snack that you could make and pull out and enjoy when you're ready for it. You can keep it in the fridge, and then I want to show you what it looks like at the end. I'm going to come over here for a second. All right, so here's the final product. I took out 1/3 of that recipe, and it really does turn into a nice pudding consistency. You want to give it a little stir, and then you can add some nice toppings to this to make it even more fun. I have here, a quarter of a sliced apple, because as I mentioned, I didn't put any sweetener in this. But I'm going to just enjoy the flavors of the cinnamon, that unsweetened vanilla almond milk, the vanilla extract. It gives it a nice flavor. And then just to add a tinge of sweetness, you can add a quarter of an apple, which is still very minimal in carbs. It adds a nice crunch and a lot of flavor. You could even top it with some slivered almonds or some pecans or some pumpkin seeds if you want to kind of stick with that fall theme here. And here you go. You have a super nice filling snack. It meets the criteria of we have those healthy, minimally processed carb sources in here. The carbs in this dish are coming from a little bit from the pumpkin and then a little bit from our apple. And actually my recipe, it's actually less carbs than what my recipe says because I didn't add that pure maple syrup to this particular dish. Minimally processed carbs. We have lots of great protein in here coming from the chia seeds, as well as that almond butter that we added in, and certainly fiber that we're getting from the pumpkin, from the apple, and from the chia seeds themselves. So pumpkin spice chia seed pudding right here. That was our snack number 2. All right, I'm gonna move some of this stuff out of the way and we'll get ready to do our next snack.
Jessica, do you have suggestions on where to find chia seeds?
Ooh, yeah. Personally, I buy my chia seeds at Costco all the time just because I use it so much. And my kids love chia seed pudding, chia seed mousse. I put them in the oatmeal. I find lots of ways to use them. So you can find them at Costco. You can find them in the grocery store. Usually we'll find them in the baking aisle where all the flours are, the almond flours. This brand here I have. This is just Bob's Red Mill organic whole chia seeds. You can find this in most grocery stores. Even I've seen it at Target. I've seen it at Safeway. So lots of different places will carry chia seeds. Okay, so our next recipe, this is a really fun, super easy one. Just a few ingredients. I bet you probably have many of these ingredients at home already. But as we know, I'm sure you've heard, oh, eat some yogurt. Yogurt's a great snack. It has great protein. Go for the Greek yogurt. What I'm going to do here is we're going to take another fun spin on the Greek yogurt, and we're going to turn it into something called yogurt bark. And this is called pumpkin spice Greek yogurt bark. Our ingredients in this dish are, we're going to use 1 cup of plain Greek yogurt. We're going to use that pumpkin pie spice that we've already used in previous recipes. I'm going to use that pumpkin puree, the same one that we just used in our chia seed pudding. You could sweeten it as an option and then just have a variety of toppings you might want to use. What I'm going to use today are some mini chocolate chips. So I'm going for a sweet pumpkin spice Greek yogurt bark in this dish today. All right, so the first step we want to do when we're making a bark is we're going to take our yogurt, and I have here in this bowl, I have put 1 cup of plain, it's just a plain Greek yogurt in here. You can use any type of yogurt you want for this recipe. If you prefer to use like one of the lightly sweetened yogurts, those are also pretty good and don't have significant carbs in them. There's some like the Chobani less sugar options, or some of the Siggi's yogurts don't have a lot of added sugar. Or you can even go for some of the other versions that are sweetened with some of the non-nutritive sweeteners. So there's some other brands out there as well. Whatever one you prefer, you like, go ahead and do it. I always like and suggest if you can go for plain yogurt, you're in more control over the ingredients that get added to it. So I always like to go for the plain stuff for that reason. Yogurt, especially the Greek yogurt, is a great way to get excellent protein, and it doesn't have a lot of carbs in it, so it can be very filling, but it can be not so exciting every day if you're just like, oh, I gotta eat my yogurt, I guess I'll just eat yogurt. So let's try a fun way with the yogurt. So in this bowl, I'm gonna move my plate over. We just have that 1 cup of plain Greek yogurt, and then we're gonna add that pumpkin pie spice. Where's my book? Here it is. I lost my pumpkin pie spice. Oh, here we go. I'll use this one. Couple. So we're gonna do, this is just a ready-made version. We're gonna put about a teaspoon of pumpkin pie spice in there. And then here's that, this is the same pumpkin I used. We're gonna put about 3 tablespoons of pumpkin into our yogurt here. And we're gonna give it a little mix. And because I'm making this more as like a treat snack if you're craving something sweet. And I'm using a plain yogurt, it's not gonna be very sweet. I'm gonna add just a tablespoon of pure maple syrup. You can add honey to this to sweeten it. And I'm gonna give that a little mix. This yogurt, if you might be wondering, you could use a low-fat yogurt, you can use a full-fat yogurt, but this is gonna end up going in the freezer, so it's gonna be frozen. Sometimes if you prefer more of a soft texture of something that's frozen, more of the low-fat yogurt might help to give you more of that soft texture, but I'm just using a plain non-fat yogurt here, and it works really well. All right, so I'm gonna mix it all up. Look at how nice that is. It's a really pretty orange color, and you can see the little specks of the cinnamon and the nutmeg from that pumpkin pie spice. And we are going to I have a plate here. The instructions are if you look up different yogurt bark recipes, it'll tell you to get like a baking sheet, but I feel like you have to put this in the freezer. And sometimes it's hard to get a whole baking sheet or something large into your freezer. So what I have here is I just have a plate and I put some parchment paper, just a little piece of parchment on top of this pipe. If you have little kids or grandkids, this is a really fun thing to do with them. I have done this with my kids and they just had a blast doing it. I gave them each of their own plates and you pour the yogurt onto the plate. So I'm going to do that here. And you can this is always a fun one with kids because they like to mix. They like to be able to do that. So this is a great one for them to mix. You can't overmix this either. So great one for them to help you with. And I'm going to take just a little rubber spatula and you just spread it out over whatever dish you're using, your plate, your baking dish. You can use a Pyrex, a square pan, whatever you have. And it doesn't have to look pretty. We're going to break this all up at the end anyway. Okay. Got that here. It looks like this, and you spread it so it's about 1 inch thick on here. And then next you want to top it with any of your favorite toppings. So I have some mini chocolate chips because I felt like that flavor went pretty well with, that pumpkin, and it kind of has that nice fall essence. But if you wanted to use, you can use carob chips if you wanted to do that. You can top this with slivered apples or coconut. You can put almonds, pecans, nuts. So really you can put whatever you want on here. And that's where it was really fun for, kids doing that, because you can get lots of different fruits and you can kind of mix and match and make different options. You could mix unsweetened cocoa powder into this. You can put more protein powder in it to bump it up even more. So super, super versatile. You can make it at any season and have it, for the whole year for different variations. So I'm just going to sprinkle I like mini chocolate chips just because you get a little bit here goes a long way. Looks like that. And then I'm going to you put this in the freezer and it just has to freeze for a couple of hours. And if I was on a real cooking show, I would, kind of show you what that would look like. But I have some ready, but I wanted to show you the final product. You put that in the freezer. When it's all frozen, you just take your paper up, and this yogurt bark is gonna peel super easy right off of that parchment. It's just gonna be in like a big circle or whatever. It might break a little bit, and that's totally fine. It's gonna end up looking like this. You're gonna have little pieces of your yogurt bark. This is one that I did with my kid. We put little chocolate chips and I melted some of the chocolate. We just drizzled it right on there. And here we go. Here we have it. And it tastes really good. You can eat it right out of the freezer, but it does taste better if you let it sit at room temperature for just a couple minutes to let it somewhat soften. And then it's like a fun way of eating some yogurt ice cream. But here is our pumpkin spice yogurt bark final product. This is what it looks like before it goes into the freezer. And great versatile fall recipe that I would highly recommend you explore. And then again, this peppermint bark, why is it a good snack for our blood sugar? Well, we're looking for things that taste good, that are minimal in the refined or processed carbs, and have that benefit of the lowering nutrients in them. Does it have some protein or healthy fat? Is it fiber? So this particular one has a lot of protein from our yogurt. And then depending on what type of toppings we add to it, we can bump that up if we wanted to add a little bit more fiber with different types of fruits or nuts or seeds. So this is our yogurt bark.
Jessica, that looks so delicious. I'm probably not the only one who's getting hungry and can't wait to try this out. We do have a question. How long can that, stay outside of the fridge?
Yeah, you saw me. I just put it right back in the freezer because I don't want to leave it out too long because it is yogurt, so it will soften. If you leave it out for 20-30 minutes, it's going to turn back into yogurt. So, try to eat it right away if you're getting it out, and then don't leave it just sitting out because then you're going to just end up with that plate of yogurt again. Okay, here's my next dish. this one that we're gonna do. So I showed you a couple. We did a savory one, which was our persimmon salad, our persimmon crunchy snap pea salad snack, and then we did our chia seed pudding, and then we did our yogurt bar. Now I want to do something that's a little bit more savory. This is a harvest trail mix with crunchy chickpeas. And this one is a really great one because it's very minimal ingredients. It doesn't take a lot to do this, and it's really, really powerful in terms of flavor and health. The health benefits of this one are pretty much up there. So this dish, we're using the main protein option here is chickpeas. I like to get chickpeas. You can get dry chickpeas and use them that way. But if you're trying to watch the sodium or the salt in your eating pattern, you may consider just getting unsalted or low sodium canned chickpeas. A low sodium canned chickpeas have 140 milligrams of salt or less per serving. So that's how it would be low sodium. If it's no added salt, it means there's no salt added into that can. If you just get dry chickpeas, there's going to be no salt in those either. So whatever your preference is, do that. What I'm going to be using in this recipe are, I have low sodium canned chickpeas that are drained. We're also going to need some olive oil and some spices. We're going to be using those nice fall earthy spices, which are paprika and cumin. And then the salt is optional here, depending on how you like to flavor some of your food. Chickpeas are a really nice option to go for when you want something crunchy because they are full of fiber and they're full of protein. So these are one of those really great mixed nutrient foods that we can really use to keep us full, support our nutrition, but also support our blood sugar. I have a baking pan here, and I put some parchment on the pan, and I have the can of unsalted or low sodium chickpeas. I'm going to just grab my olive oil. I have a different olive oil that I'm using that I compared to the one I used in my salad. I'm just gonna put a little bit of olive oil in here. A tip, for these so these are chickpeas that we have to bake. We're gonna make them crunchy. One of the main things you wanna do if you're gonna make this is you wanna make sure that the chickpeas are dry. So I have taken them out. I actually took them out about an hour ago, and I just put them in a colander and I drained them, I rinsed them, and I just let them sit, and they've actually become pretty dry. So there's not a lot of moisture left in it from the rinse or from the can. You can also just dab them with a paper towel or a dish towel so that they're dry. You just want to get that moisture out, and that's what's going to help them really crisp up in the oven much easier. So all I did was mix that olive oil in here, and I'm going to dump it right onto the pan. Just kind of spread it around so that they're not touching each other. And we're going to bake these in the oven for 20 to 30 minutes at 425 degrees. When you are baking them, you want to give them a stir on the pan, probably once or twice throughout the baking cycle, just so that they're not sticking and that they're all cooking evenly. We're going to flavor them when they're done cooking, just so that we're not burning the spices. So this is going to go straight into the oven. Pretend I just put those in the oven. They've baked for 20 or 30 minutes, and then what do they end up looking like? When you take them out, you stir them a couple times, you take them out, and they're super crunchy. It's almost like a nut type of texture. So they're just chickpeas, and you dehydrated them. And now this is the base of what's going to be our harvest trail mix that we're making. When these are hot and they come out of the oven, now is the time to add your flavors. And this is where this dish becomes extremely versatile, because you can add, I'm choosing here to use the cumin and the smoked paprika, just because those are some nice fall earthy spices that we can use here. If you want to make it spicy, you can add some chili powder. If you want to make this more sweet, you can add some cinnamon or some nutmeg to it. Lots of different ways to flavor these up. When it's hot and comes out of the oven, we're going to put our spices on here. We're going to put about a quarter teaspoon of the cumin, And I'm going to put about 2 teaspoons of smoked paprika. We're going to mix that all up in here. We're going to let it cool. This is already cool because I made it already, but we're just pretending right now. All right, so let's pretend this is cool. And I'm gonna now we're gonna make, this is the base of our trail mix, lots of great flavor. I'm gonna put this right into a bowl. And then we're gonna add some other fun components to our harvest trail mix. The next thing I want to add to this are, I toasted on the stove after I did my almonds. I also toasted a quarter cup of just pecans. And so when you toast them, it gives it a nice crunch and just like a really nice earthy flavor. So I toasted those and I put a quarter cup right into here. And then I have these are just pumpkin seeds. I choose to use these because they're super nice way to even further complement the protein and the fiber here. In just a quarter cup of these pumpkin seeds, we're getting only 3 grams of carbs, 2 grams of fiber, but 8 grams of protein from these pumpkin seeds. So I'm going to add all this right into here. And we're going to give it a nice mix. You can add other things here if you want. If you wanted to add other types of seeds or peanuts, you can mix it all up. And then we want to have, our serving of this is going to be about a quarter of a cup, which is about maybe that much here. This particular recipe makes, the one that I just made here makes about 3 to 4 servings. And altogether, this is a great way to get some nice protein, again, lots of fiber. There's a lot of healthy fat coming in this dish as well, because we did roast all these chickpeas with that olive oil. And then we have the fat that we're getting from the sprouted pumpkin seeds, as well as from the pecans here. And in one serving of this, that's going to be, roughly a handful, or about 1 ounce. It's about 140 calories. It's 11 grams of carbs and 5 grams of fiber, 5 grams of protein in our harvest trail mix. So it certainly gives us that nice, good fullness from there for that one. All right. Any questions so far? We're going to be moving on to our last recipe. I need to do a little shuffle and make a space here.
Jessica, any tips on toasting the nuts?
On toasting them, yes. So you don't want to leave them. That's probably my #1 tip is, if you're busy doing other things, don't leave the nuts toasting, but you want to put them on low heat in a pan, and you want to stir them, every 10-20 seconds, because they can burn very easily. So you just want to mix them until you start to smell them and they just start to get a little bit of a toast on them. And then you want to take them out of the pan right away. So usually when I start to see, okay, I think it's looking like they're done, I will just dump them right onto a plate and not leave them in that pan, because they'll continue to cook if you leave them in the pan, and then they can burn a little more easily that way.
Jessica, do you know, we have a couple questions about making your own almond milk. Looks like somebody has their own almond milk maker.
Yes, what is that?
Something you have tried or are familiar with?
I have a friend that makes her own almond milk all the time, and I've had it and it's amazing, but I personally have never made my own almond milk before. That would be a great recipe to explore in future webinars.
I agree. And yes, these recipes, we are going to post the recipe, a link to them, when we post the webinar on the diabetes program website. And I will share that link right now in the chat.
Okay, just getting my last few ingredients ready here, and I will be ready to go. All right, Erin, feel free to go ahead and share that last. We're going to do our last recipe that I said I had 5 recipes. This is my other savory recipe I want to share with you. This is a rosemary hummus with veggies. And hummus, I know you can buy hummus at the store and it's already prepared. I buy it all the time, but I promise you, if you make your own hummus, it's definitely a whole different flavor profile. It is so good and so easy, and it's a lot more cost effective too when you make your own hummus. So this is what the ingredients that go into this particular hummus. You see that you see a theme here again. We have those unsalted chickpeas. I just have the canned ones. I want to use some of those nice fall herbs. So I have some fresh rosemary, that's going to go in here. We have some garlic. And then again, those same spices, we're going to use those again. The smoked paprika and the cumin. We have some lemon, and I have some tahini and some olive oil. So those are our ingredients for our hummus. And I'm going to show you how to make it. One of the tools that I have, it's a kitchen appliance that I have, is I have a mini food processor here. And these are widely available at lots of different stores or online. I have also a really big food processor, but I find it really cumbersome, and I just don't use a big food processor. It has a lot of pieces and a lot of parts. But the little one, it stores really nice, and you can make sauces and lots of different things in a quick fix, or even use it to chop things. If you have to chop peppers or onions and you're having trouble doing that, throw them in a food processor, and it can be a great time saver and get things done for you. So I'm gonna make sure I plug this in. Right, let me move this so you can see it. So far, I just have 1 can of the drained and rinsed chickpeas right into the food processor. And then I have some fresh rosemary. I have a rosemary plant out in the garden. I just went and picked a sprig of it. So I'm just going to take some of these off. Oops, I just put them all over the place. Pick those up later. I'm just going to put that fresh rosemary right into here. The fresh, you can use a dried rosemary. It doesn't have to be the fresh, but the fresh really does have a nice flavor if you happen to have it. It has a very strong flavor, which I really like. And it makes it smell really good too. It smells so fall in here with the rosemary. Okay, so that's about 1 tablespoon of the rosemary. I'm not even going to chop it up because it's going to get chopped up pretty well once I blend this all together. Also in here I have, you can put one clove or 2 cloves of garlic, depending on your preference of garlic. You can also leave it out if you don't want to use it. You can also use a garlic powder if you prefer that, but there's also 1 clove of garlic in here. I'm going to put 1 teaspoon. I'm going to measure it out this time. So I have 1 teaspoon of the smoked paprika going in here. And this paprika, it's such a pretty color, and it makes the hummus look really nice when it's all done. Okay, and then I'm going to put a 1/4 teaspoon of the cumin that goes right into this as well. These are definitely, the cumin's a really nice kind of key ingredient when you make a hummus. Most hummus usually has this added to it. If you don't like the flavor of it, you can always leave that out. And then I just have 1 lemon it was a large lemon, and I've cut it into quarters. I have a lemon juicer. I'm going to juice the lemon right into the food processor because we need to put some lemon juice in here. And I like it really lemony, so I'm going to use this entire lemon to put in here. Almost done. One more lemon piece. This gives it a really nice, vibrant taste when you put that lemon in there. Okay. And then the next ingredient, also a key ingredient for our hummus, is tahini. And tahini is just what this is. It's ground sesame seeds. That's all it is, just ground sesame seed. And that's going to go into our hummus. And I need about a 1/4 cup of that. I'm going to measure that out in here. 1/4 cup of tahini. It's right in here. So tahini, that's the sesame seed. So we have seed. And the seed is where we're getting lots of good healthy fat. It has some protein in there, so that's in here. We have lots of protein and fiber from our chickpeas that are already in here. And then we're gonna add about a quarter cup, use that same measuring cup, a quarter cup of olive oil right into our hummus. Okay, those are all of our ingredients. And then I'm going to turn this on. This is going to be loud for a minute.
I'll save the question till you're done pureeing.
Just a tip for anyone who has not used a food processor, if you have one and you haven't used it in a while, one thing I would suggest is just make sure before you start adding all of your things to it, is that you have the blade already in, because the blade has to be connected and sits down. But if you have this whole thing out and you try to put it on, it pushes the blade up, and then your device won't start. So then it's a big hassle, because then you have to take everything out again and redo it. So make sure the blade is in first and the holder is already in place. So I'm gonna turn this on for about 20 seconds or so until it gets to a really nice smooth consistency. Oops. All right, I think this looks really good. I'd like to give it a little extra mix. All right, great. This looks so good. It smells so good. To make it a little bit creamier, you can add a couple tablespoons of water, and that can help to thin out this hummus. But I'm going to show it to you, and then I have another final product I want to show you. But this is what it looks like. You could mix it a little bit more again if you like, but what it's going to look like when it's all done, and so good. And this is a really great crowd pleaser. When you go, if you're going to go to a holiday party and you say, oh, I made this homemade hummus, this is a great option if you're going somewhere and you want to bring a nice snack, something that you can eat and it's still really healthful and carb controlled and holiday and festive and tasty. But this is about a quarter cup of that hummus right here. This is our rosemary hummus, and you can serve it with a variety of dipping options. I just have some carrots, some radishes, cucumbers. It's all a lot of the same ingredients that I've used in some of our other things. And all together, for a quarter cup of this, we're getting less than 200 calories, 8 grams of carbs, 4 grams of fiber, 8 grams of protein. We're actually getting even more fiber with these additional veggies to dip. So this snack fills that criteria of being, it's using minimally processed carbs. There's no added sugar in here. It's all natural ingredients. It has great protein, fiber, healthy fats to help fuel our body, keep us full longer, and most of all, it's really great for our blood sugar. So I'll just line up all my snacks here so you can all see them, and then happy to take any questions if there's any other questions. I know we're getting close on our ending time here.
Yeah, one question was, do you just throw in the whole stem of rosemary?
But the question was, do I throw the whole stem of rosemary in there?
Yes.
I usually don't. The stem, it depends on your plant, but a lot of times it depends on how old your rosemary bush is, but the stem on it can get really fibrous and woodsy. So I like to just break off, like they really, you can just kind of peel them off and just take the little sprigs of the rosemary leaves and put those into the hummus.
Well, thank you, Jessica. There's a lot of just appreciation and excitement to try out these recipes, and where it's like enticing and they're flavorful, but also simple. And so people are looking forward to getting in the kitchen and trying these out.
Great. I hope you all do, and I hope you enjoy them. Thank you so much for letting me share these recipes with you, and have a wonderful fall season, everybody. Thank you so much.
And thank you so much, Jessica, and thank you everyone for attending. The recording will be posted next week on the Health Library, along with the link to the recipes. And hope we can see you next month. It's the second Thursday of the month at 5 p.m. And the topic in December is diabetic-friendly dessert options during the holidays. So we will keep the festive theme going. All right. Thank you all.